day 6 of the Nuts and Bolts unit. Absent student instructional PowerPoint with information of what we are doing in class today. By the end of this video today, you should have a much better idea of what the glyphs are about, and therefore a much better idea of what you want your glyph to look like. The course aim stays the same. We are still trying to deepen our understanding of how art communicates. The unit goal is to establish foundation for success during this course. The content objective for today is for you to understand the purpose of the unit count glyphs. The language objective is for you to be able to define mnemonic. We discussed the winter count art form earlier in this unit. Go back and think about what you remember for the winter counts. What I really want you to do is think about the web, that spiral, that format that is connected like a spider web, and how these unit count glyphs that we are doing are supposed to let you review and see the connections that you might not see in a linear format. Let's start by defining mnemonic. It's an interesting word with that silent M at the beginning. The reason it's important to understand this term is the unit count glyphs are supposed to provide you with a mnemonic device to remember the learning that you've done in each unit. So the definition is it's a device that assists in remembering something. As an adjective, it is the action of using something to remember something. An example of a mnemonic device is using the word homes to remember the names of the 5 Great Lakes: Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior. A mnemonic device that I learned in elementary music classes is there's actually 2 of them to remember the notes on the treble clef. The notes in the spaces spell out face, F-A-C-E, where the notes that exist on the 5 lines, you need to remember that every good boy does fine. In our classes, you may have had a teacher talk about Roy G. Biv. And you may wonder, who is this Roy G. Biv character? Is he a famous artist? Who is it? It's actually a mnemonic device to help you remember the colors of the rainbow in order, and the colors of the color wheel in order. Now, you may notice that there's 7 letters in that name, and only 6 colors on the color wheel. So why do we have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet instead of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet? I think it's easier to have that vowel in the last name so that it is Roy G. Biv instead of Roy G. Biv. It's hard to pronounce a word without vowels. In a small group, 2 or 3 people sitting around you there at the table, think back and share a mnemonic device that you know or use, and then find one to write down in the unit handout. Obviously, you aren't here to partake in the small group, and you don't have your unit handout with you to record it. But maybe talk with your parents or a sibling or a friend about mnemonic devices and find one that you can write down. You can wait until you have the unit handout and complete this, or you can write it on a separate sheet of paper and staple that to your unit handout when you return. So now, with this understanding of mnemonics and mnemonic devices, perhaps you better understand how the unit count glyph is to be that visual that helps you remember what you learned during each unit of this course. And again, the spiral format that the winter counts used, I want to keep that in place because each unit is going to revolve around the course aim that you will deepen your understanding of how art communicates. And with each of these little mnemonic devices going around in a spiral and you remembering what you learned during each one, hopefully it will really start to create that spider web, that structure of understanding where each one of them ties to the other, and then the whole course becomes greater than the sum of the parts of the units. That's the idea of doing these glyphs. You will be doing these unit count glyphs at the end of every unit. One glyph for each unit during the course, meaning you'll end up with at least 5 and maybe 7 or even 8 glyphs by the end of this course. Each of these glyphs will be worth 20 points on the project layer. There are 4 criteria that are worth 5 points each, resulting in the 20-point total for the project. The first of the 4 is winter count style. I want you to emulate the traditional format with the spiral, and I am looking that the glyph is appropriate in scale. You don't want it to be small like a postage stamp, but it also can't be too big and not leave room for the other glyphs to follow. The second criteria is symbolism. These glyphs are to be mnemonic devices to help you remember what you learned, but also symbolic of what you learned. And I expect you to be able to explain how your glyph does this in writing. The third criteria is media. To get full points, you need to use a combination of at least 3 of the media. And I'm giving you 4 options. You can use graphite pencil, colored pencil, marker, crayon, or any combination of those 4 things. The reason I'm limiting it to those 4 things is the portfolio ultimately is to protect your artwork. And if you were to use something like chalk pastel, that's a very messy medium, and it would probably get all over your cover and into your portfolio, and then instead of protecting your artwork, it can actually ruin your artwork. So I'm limiting it to those 4, but if you really have your heart set on doing something else, you can talk to me about it. We can consult and decide if it would be appropriate for this project. The 4th criteria is media skills. I am looking for you to gain control of the medium. No matter where we're doing of the project, whether it's this glyph at the end or the main project that we are doing for a unit, I'm always looking for you to control the medium instead of the medium controlling you. My favorite analogy for this is You'll sometimes see people walking a dog and the dog is pulling the leash and the person is being forced to go where the dog is taking them. Other people, you see them walking their dog and the dog is compliant and working with the owner. So you'll often hear me refer to media skills with the question of, are you walking the dog or is the dog walking you? So each of those 4 criteria are worth up to 5 points each. There is a full rubric for the unit count glyphs that you can find on my lesson plan page. The extra credit criteria is a digital portfolio. On your own, I encourage you to do this because this will be worth bonus points throughout. But you can create a Google Doc that you will share with me where you can upload pictures of your artwork and then include a little bit of writing about what you were doing with your artwork. Very similar to what you did with the South Dakota Masters. You would just explain the symbolism and the communication that you are conveying through your artwork. Doing that not only is good for you and establishing the learning in your own mind, but it can be shared with parents, with other people outside of the school. You can allow them to see what you are doing in this class through that digital portfolio. Go to the Art One unit information page on my school website and click on the unit count video link and watch the video to provide more in-depth information on how to proceed to create these. Students in class watch this video too, but afterwards we're going to set up the unit count composition on the portfolio. I'll have little templates for you to trace. We'll talk about how to get the spiral going and those sorts of things. So you will need to get caught up on that on your return to class. You can get my attention for the help, or you can talk to a neighbor at the table because they should know what's going on with it. But do your best to get caught up and not fall behind. It's real early in this course to be falling behind.